So welcome back to AATV. I'm your host Tom Anvil Hibberd, and I've popped up to the local woods today. Wanted to test out this snug pack hammock. Very kindly got given a few months back. See what it's all about. Really nice kind of lightweight travel hammock. Good for battering up. Much kind of simpler system than my DD hammock, which is great for hammock camping. But also to answer a few of your frequently asked questions that I see popping up in the comments all the time. And I think it's kind of a good opportunity to go through some of those and cover them off. So in no particular order. Can you do X Loadout? Okay, so the loadout videos are probably the most popular series we've done on the channel. And thank you for watching those and for making suggestions. The thing is, this channel operates on a completely shoestring budget. So all the stuff we've done currently, we've either had already, or we've been able to buy some really cheap stuff from an army surplus store. So we maybe spent 10, 20 quid on a shirt or a pair of boots, something along those lines, just to make sure we can get a decent loadout for you guys. If we don't have the kit, it's kind of prohibitively expensive to be able to then buy a whole load of kit and show it to you guys. So one of those videos might make 20 quid if we're lucky, and I can probably buy Gadget a couple of pints out of that, but that's about it. So obviously if we're to go and spend 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds on a loadout, it's just not going to happen. What we may do in the future is if we come across some people with some really good loadouts and we can get to them and spend some time videoing them, we'll get them to talk you through their loadout in the same format that we use. And that's something possibly we can do in the future if we're at a themed game and we want to pick something up. So there's an opportunity there. The other thing we're coming across recently is we've been asked to do more modern loadouts. So again, neither Gadge nor me are really into totally modern stuff other than our kind of UKSF kit, which we've already covered. So that means we would again have to buy a load of kit for it, or almost interview someone else who already has that kit. So that's pretty much a no-go. And with the current conflicts that are going on as of Friday 29th of April 2022 in the world, we're also not very comfortable covering kind of more modern conflicts. So we've kind of put a soft limit of about 20 years. So at the moment we're going back to 2002, global war on terror, the very early days, start of operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, and that's about it. That's about as far as we're happy. So sorry about that. If you really want to see one, if you're really into it and you've got the kit yourself, do one, put it on YouTube. It's a fantastic resource and people will enjoy watching it. So another question I get occasionally is, how can I help the channel? Well, we don't have any major sponsors. I occasionally get given or lent kit by some companies. I have had a relationship with people like Taiwan Gun in the past. All of my content for Taiwan Gun is on their channel. So I've been paid to make that content as a filmmaker, but it's on their channel, and we're quite happy with that relationship. With Brexit, that supply stream has pretty much ended. So funding for the channel basically comes out of my pocket, Gadget's pocket, and a little bit of YouTube advertising revenue. So we're really grateful for all of our patrons on Patreon, and you can sign up for that. That's an ongoing subscription payment. So you kind of sign up, there's a few tiers of payment, and you can contribute monthly to the channel. The major benefit for being on Patreon is that you get to see the episodes at least a day early, so you get a bit of a preview. I do the occasional post, and if I'm selling kit, generally also those guys get to see it first as a bit of a thank you for them. So that's one way of doing it. Super useful, helps us keep us as independent as possible, and I really appreciate any help that those guys can give us. By all means, there's a link below. If you feel like you can contribute a few pounds a month, that would be really appreciated. I've also just started a Buy Me a Coffee account. That's used by a lot of kind of creatives and content creators, and it's a way of kind of tipping someone. So if you like what we do and you can spare the price of a high street coffee, head over to that link, chuck in a few quid. You can also do a subscription payment on that as well, but it's kind of more for that one-off. I really like that episode. Thanks guys. Have some cash. And again, all that money will be ring-fenced and used to support the channel, get new kit, new guns and new stuff to review. So that would be highly appreciated. If you can spare a few quid, buy me a coffee, that would be great. Link in the description. There's also, in the description, there's also an Amazon affiliate link. So if you're going to buy something through Amazon, you can go through that link. that will take you to a shop where I've basically got some of the filming equipment that I've used historically in the past. So if you want to, you can buy some of that. But if you carry on browsing through that link, I'll end up getting a bit of a kickback. It won't cost you any more money, but that money will come into the channel. That'd be super handy. There's also finally a Teespring store. Teespring make t-shirts and other branded goods, and there's some AATV t-shirts in there with a few different designs. And again, that money will then all go into a ring-fenced account to help the channel out. So 4 ways to help the channel. Patreon, if you want to kind of contribute on a regular basis. Buy me a coffee if you want to make a one-off payment. Amazon, if you're doing some shopping. Teespring, if you fancy a cool t-shirt. All of those will really help the channel, help us stay as independent as possible, and carry on making the content that you guys love. Another question we get all the time is, can you test this gun? So there's a couple of caveats for how we test stuff. The first one is it a military or law enforcement replica? So my personal airsoft bias is towards military and law enforcement scenarios, games, equipment, gear, and replica firearms. So if it's not one of those, it's very unlikely I'm going to be interested in looking at it. We're also not made of money. Again, we can't afford to just buy stuff, test it, and then pass it on. So all of our purchases are going to be very considered. I also would like to have some time with a replica. I don't really want to just take it to the range, put 200 BBs through it, and then give you a review. I don't think that's good enough, personally. I understand why people do it, but for me, I'm not comfortable with that level of firing. I need to do a bit more than that. Potentially game with it, but certainly get 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 BBs through it before I can form an opinion. Most hops don't really start working until 600 BBs have been through it anyway, so I think it's very hard to give you a fair review if I haven't done that. I also like to take things apart and have a look at the gearbox and what makes it tick. So that's obviously will avoid warranties and effectively make things secondhand. If I'm just doing a range test though, I will tend to tell people I'm just doing a range test, and then you can see the results for yourself and make up your own decision. And I've had some help from some companies with some loaners and replicas, but we make it very obvious what we're doing and why we're at the range with those, rather than it being a long-term review. It might be a first shots or an overview. I often get asked if you can lend me a gun to shoot on the range. Generally a bit reluctant for those reasons, so I like a longer term review. I like to be able to take things apart. I like to form an opinion over a couple of months rather than just a snapshot on the range. So those things are appreciated. Generally I will say no. Potentially just difficulties in posting stuff to me and getting it back to you. There is some stuff I'm looking out for, and I've been talking to a few people about some replicas that I just can't really justify buying for the channel, but I think you'd be really interested in seeing, so you can look out for those this year, hopefully. My health, that was an interesting one. Most of you will be aware I lost quite a lot of weight in the last year. There's a bit of a story to that, so let's head back. So kind of 2012, 2013, 2014, I was racing and time trialing cycling at a reasonably decent level. And I got really ill at work through stress. So I had pretty much had what used to be called a nervous breakdown. So anxiety, depression, stress disorder, all that sort of stuff. And with that came a physical breakdown as well. So diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and all that sort of stuff. So I went from being a very fit, active guy to being a not very fit, active guy with quite a lot of health conditions quite quickly. Partly meant I had to leave work. Part of the stress through work led to that happening. So it's taken me a number of years to get my health back, and I was on the way, and I went open water swimming. I used to be a triathlon coach. I am a triathlon coach. Went open water swimming, and I had what's called a pulmonary edema in the middle of a lake. So this was a managed lake with rescue boats, managed session, all that sort of stuff. Pulmonary edema means fluid on the lungs. So effectively my blood pressure spiked so high that plasma and fluid from my blood system got pushed through into my lungs. So my lungs were basically filling up with water from the rest of my body, not from the lake, but from the rest of my body, which kind of felt like foam. So effectively it started running out of lung. That then meant that I had to get rescued by the boat, which was interesting, but great, thanks to those guys. I went to see the GP. GP did an ECG, did a few exams, checked my blood pressure, and sent me to casualty with a suspected heart attack or blood clot on the lung. Spent a couple of days in hospital, overnight, lots of scans. I've got nothing but praise and thanks to all the NHS staff that treated me. Had x-rays, more ECGs, echocardiograms, ultrasounds, everything, you know, absolutely amazing. In fact, they couldn't find anything wrong with me other than my blood pressure was really high and my diabetes had returned quite badly. So that was a bit of a scare. I ended up getting out of hospital, back onto some medication. And the best thing I could do, realistically, for my health at that point was to get weight off. So I went on a very strict diet. I lost 2.5 stone very quickly to get to the point where I am now, and I'm back on the bike. So I'm currently riding about 300 kilometers, 200 miles a week, and I'm back triathlon coaching as well, which has been super awesome. I've got a bit more weight to go, a bit more health to get, but generally I'm much more healthy, much happier. So thanks to kind of everyone for your very kind comments. It's been much appreciated. As I say, I feel a lot better than I did, and everything's kind of going really well. So thanks for that. So the channel and Replica firearms. YouTube, flat out, in fact most social media these days, doesn't like gun-shaped objects. If you handle a gun-shaped object on screen at the moment on YouTube, it will be demonetized. We don't make a lot of money through advertising, but YouTube won't distribute a video which has been demonetized out to subscribers. You just won't see it in your subscription feed, and then anyone that's not a subscriber also won't see it. It will disappear off into the ether. There's an enormous difference, and you can just see it in the analytics between a video that's been demonetized and a video which is monetized. So effectively, I can't really handle a realistic looking firearm on screen anymore and expect to get it monetized, which is a bit of an issue when you do it in an Airsoft channel and you don't have revenue coming in from a sponsor or a shop to advertise or promote products. So what we're going to do increasingly is take this channel in a more outdoors lifestyle, militaria kind of way. So similar theme, bit more milsim, camping, walking, gear, militaria, webbing walks, that sort of stuff. We'll carry on doing the loadouts. We're going to run out of loadouts fairly soon anyway. But that's the way we're going to go. So expect to see more sort of outdoors based stuff. It's also the videos I like making, realistically. It's much more kind of calming. That's why I'm out in the woods right now doing this for you. Yeah, so that's the way the channel's going to go. We may change the name. We'll see how we go. Might turn it to Anvil Active TV. So yeah, making videos about gun-shaped objects is really tough, and we're not sure we can carry on. But we'll carry on in some form. Can you review an HPA gun? No. I'm just not into hoses, man. I guess if the right thing comes along, I mean, something, I think a DMR, you know, a really nice, realistic DMR would be really cool as an HPA gun. I think that would work a bit better than running around with a hose hanging off with like an assault rifle or an SMG or one of them pistol things. I think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my bag. So probably no HPA guns on the channel. I would kind of like one as like a test rig because you can be really consistent. So I can make sure, you know, a BB always comes out at 1 joule. Much easier than they could do with an AEG or a gas gun. So if anyone wants to provide me or sponsor the show with an HPA rig, we can bench rest and fire and use to test barrels and hops, BBs, all that sort of stuff. That could be quite cool. If you're interested, get in touch. Okay, thanks for watching. It's been Tom Anvil Hibberd here in the woods, playing with my new hammock. If you've got any questions, pop them down below and we'll try and maybe do another episode at some point. So if any more questions for me to answer or for Gadge, fire them down in the comments and we'll get round to them fairly soon. Probably do some more of these if you're interested. They're quite good fun. I get to sit here and make coffee on my Trangia and answer questions. So that's all from me. So you can support us on Patreon. You can tip us on Buy Me a Coffee. You can buy one of our fantastic t-shirts. You can use our Amazon affiliate link. Most importantly, stay safe and we'll see you soon.